Welcome to the place where we gain knowledge through the lens of creativity. I am Aaron Dworkin, and this is Artful Science. Thanks again for joining me here on Artful Science. Today's show is Protecting Our Tech, the opportunities in cybersecurity education. And my guest is Rich Lamb, who serves as coordinator of cyber operations for the Pinckney Cyber Training Institute. Rich, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, generally speaking, a lot of times we're like, okay, right, people hack into computers and all of our banking information has been stolen and right, all of those things. But just because, there's obviously a lot more to it, can you kind of just share with us, like, what is cybersecurity actually? What does it involve, that kind of thing?
Sure. So I think an overall arching thing is when you're talking about cybersecurity is that really cybersecurity is about protecting your assets. And so if you think about what that means, it means the obvious things, protecting your company data, your customer data from being stolen or compromised, and protecting your network systems from being attacked or from being used for malignant purposes. And when I say that, I talk about those things from protecting that network from both outside of your company and also within your company. But I like to look at cybersecurity as having a couple more assets that people don't always talk about. And the first one being cybersecurity is about protecting your people and protecting your human resources. Now, how do you do that? Through training and awareness. And in my opinion, that's probably the most important aspect of cybersecurity. And I say that, and I'm gonna give you a little story related to that. Years ago, there was a bank, a local bank, and they wanted to run their employees through some cybersecurity awareness. And so what this bank did was they hired a cybersecurity firm, and that cybersecurity firm came by the bank after hours and just dropped off a couple of flash drives and left them in the parking lot. And so what happened in the morning? The employees walked into the business, and they saw the flash drives sitting there on the parking lot. And if you think about human nature, we want to help people. So what do you think they did? They took the flash drives and plugged them right into their computers at work to see who it belonged to. And of course, on those flash drives was a script that downloaded banking data and fortunately sent it off to the cybersecurity firm. And so if you think about that, and if you think about human nature and how we want to help each other as just human beings, it's important that you protect your people with cybersecurity. And that's, as I mentioned, is through training and awareness. The last thing I think about when I think about what is cybersecurity, I think about the reputation of the company, and that's really why cybersecurity is important. Recently, I'm sure we've all heard about the SolarWinds breach that, from what I've read, affects 18,000 people. It made both national and international news, and we had government servers that were compromised. And so in order to maintain your reputation, you need to make sure that you have a sound cybersecurity posture.
Gotcha. And with cybersecurity, right? Like a lot of times, and especially like as an artist, I think, okay, banks, the government, right? Really important things. Any of my, credit cards, financial stuff. But what are there businesses that kind of don't need to worry as much about this? And or, as individuals, is there really much we can kind of do about this? Is this really kind of big corporations that should be mostly worried about cybersecurity?
Well, I think everyone should be worried about it because the latest type of attack for the small businesses is ransomware, where they lock you out of your system unless you pay them some type of a ransom. And that affects all businesses. It's not just the large corporations and the large retail businesses where data is being stolen. It's the small businesses that get locked out of their data unless they're willing to pay the ransom. And so really cybersecurity affects, in my opinion, every business, and if you want to get drill down even further, every individual.
Gotcha. Wow. And so, is there any sense that we have of how widespread cybersecurity issues are, or breaches are, or hacks are? Do we have a sense of how much happens?
Um, that's very difficult because typically when a breach occurs, the company's the one that finds it. So there are times when we do find out about it, such as something just recently happened in Microsoft, and also the SolarWinds that I mentioned earlier. But very often it's not reported to the general public, and that goes back to the company's reputation. There are times where companies don't want to report it to the authorities because they don't want it to be made public. It's interesting. One of the few places where they will report it is to their insurance companies, because there's actually a new field of insurance out there called cybersecurity insurance.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha. So it's definitely getting deep. So
Mm-hmm.
to really bring us home to kind of the focus for this show, which is, so this huge cybersecurity issue exists, but there is actually education. So, what types of jobs are actually available? When you think about cybersecurity, what types of jobs, and then kind of following that, who's really equipped to get those types of jobs?
Mm-hmm. Well, as I said, cybersecurity is kind of a general term, and there's lots of different areas that someone can come into and specialize. It's really complex and a diverse set of functions. So some of the areas of specialties are something like architecture and policy, where you can design and implement secure systems. There's data loss prevention, which is probably the most well-known one, where you're managing your security operations. Governance and compliance, where you're constantly reviewing and your internal systems and quantifying the different risks that you have. One that seems to be really, I would think would be really fun. There's an area called penetration testing, where you're actually paid to attack systems to find their vulnerabilities.
Nice.
It's either internal or sometimes it's external also. And then another area is what they call secure DevOps, and that's where you have a hands-on team that manages data center and cloud systems. As far as entry into the field,
Right. Like, say, imagine, I'm somewhere, say even I might have been in the arts and looking to say, you know what, I've done what I've wanted to do here. I want to kind of make a switch, or especially young people coming up and saying, this sounds cool. How do I get that kind of job? What do I need?
mhm.
Certification, educate, what's needed?
Absolutely. So there's really two paths, and this is really the debate that's in the cybersecurity field now, and that debate is degrees versus certifications. Yeah, and I see more companies interested in the certifications than they are in the degrees, because if you have an industry certification, that is demonstrating that you have the skills to do the job. Sometimes there are some very good degree programs out there, both locally and nationally, but sometimes a degree program is a little bit more focused on theory as opposed to the certifications. And so my experience has been that companies really like to see the certifications. And if you have a certification on your resume, that's going to at least get you the first interview. That's going to get your foot in the door to have a conversation.
Gotcha. And what type of thing is that? So say I want to get into it. I've decided I'm going to go kind of this certification route. What are kind of those first steps, and what kind of job could I get after that certification?
Absolutely. So as far as entry-level certifications, there are a couple that I focus on, and there's really two different organizations that we work with and focus on their certifications. The first one is CompTIA, COMPTIA, and that's a nonprofit that's been around since the 80s. And they have really three entry-level certifications that are available. The first one is called A+, and that's computer hardware repair. And troubleshooting. The next one is Network Plus, which is all about learning how to configure a network. And then their last one is Security Plus, which is obviously focuses on security. Another organization that we work with is Cisco Systems, and they they actually develop their own hardware and software, and they've been the leader in the market for a number of years. They capture about 60% of the networking hardware market. A couple of their certifications that are considered to be entry level: Cisco Certified Network Associate, which is all about building computer networks; a Cisco Cyber Ops Associate, which is more in the security field, the data loss prevention. That prepares somebody for a tier 1 SOC analyst. And what a SOC is a security operations center, either in-house or a third-party company that you would have that would monitor your network for any type of intrusion.
Gotcha. Cool stuff. So let's say, for example, maybe in part because I like how the terminology sounds, I want to be this Cisco Cyber Ops certification. And they go and do that. But ballpark, kind of how much time will it take me to get that certification? How much will it cost me? Ballpark. And then what type of job will I be able to get? And kind of, is there ballpark compensation? Kind of, right, curious, if I want to go down this road, what does my path look like?
Absolutely. So when we're talking about I'll just kind of give a good overview. When we're talking about the CompTIA certifications, they are anywhere from 40 to 80 hours of class time is what they recommend. On top of that, we always recommend some self-study time, and that's after they take the course, and that's really dependent upon the individual. The Cisco certifications, is if you're going to take a class, those classes range anywhere from 70 to 210 hours, depending on the different certification. The CCNA, the Cisco Certified Network Associate, that's the one that takes the most time because you're building large computer networks. But most of them fall into the 40 to 80 hours of class time with some self-study afterwards.
Gotcha. And so ballpark, if I'm really focused on it, a couple months, several
Yeah,
months, then I can
absolutely.
get my certification. Gotcha.
Yeah, we run programs that offer a couple of certifications in the Cisco realm, and those are about 80 hours of class time, and then we recommend some self-study and a few hours a week outside of class time on top of that. But we package that into an internship also, and so we have a program that's 16 weeks long, and they go about 10 hours a week in class, and they come out really prepared to do an entry-level position such as a help desk technician, a network technician, or that level 1 SOC analyst that I mentioned.
Gotcha. And
As
on the
far as
financial piece, right? Ballpark
Absolutely.
cost to get the certifications, and then what am I looking at comp-wise on the outside?
Absolutely. So those certification courses run anywhere from 2,500 to they can be as much as $8,000 if you've packaged a couple of those courses together. So that is if you actually take a live class. There a lot of these programs offer self-study materials, and those can run from anywhere from $500 to $1,000 depending on how big of a package you purchase. As far as pay, if you're going to start out as a tier 1 SOC analyst, you could start anywhere from $18 to $25 an hour. And if you have a certification on top of that, they may pay you more. And the great thing about this is that's just the start. And if it's something that you are really interested in and there's plenty of opportunity to advance, I have a young man that I know. He got out of the service, and then he started working with one of our corporate partners as a help desk engineer, making $18 an hour. That was a year and a half ago. He just left the company for a different company, and now he's making $85,000 a year, and he's 29 years old.
Wow, awesome. And
Yeah.
so, we're always thinking often about issues relating to, equity and inclusion, diversity. Are there issues with that? Are there challenges when we look at cybersecurity? Certainly when I think about cybersecurity, I think actually in a lot like the arts, there's certain lack of diversity. Is that something that organizations are working on? Do you have that at all as kind of a focus of looking at trying to create a pathway for young people from underserved communities or of color who have an interest in this field?
Uh, Absolutely. There's a lot of work to do. I just actually read an article just yesterday. When you look at diversity and people of color working in the cybersecurity field, it does mirror the general workforce in the United States, but there is a significant percentage difference in management positions. On top of that, cybersecurity has a huge gender problem. Women only make up 11% of the global cybersecurity workforce.
Gotcha.
And so what we've tried to do is work with some of our partners to create some pathways, not only for people of color, but also to try to close that gender gap, but other groups also. We're actually part of the Michigan Cyber Range, which was developed by the Merit Network, and we are considered a cyber range hub. And our focus here in Pinckney, we have really three areas that we focus on. Our first focus is the K-12, because we're actually located within Pinckney Community Schools. We're a Pinckney Community Schools organization, and we've been teaching cybersecurity in this area for over 20 years. And so that is our focus. So we wanted to expand that focus for the entire state. And we work with Michigan Virtual to expand cybersecurity offerings around the state. We actually provide cybersecurity training to students in over 50 high schools in the state of Michigan. We also have expanded our programs beyond K-12. We work with individuals with disabilities and have a program set up for them. We also have a veterans program here that we work with another group, and we're setting up a satellite campus at Selfridge Air Force Base for veterans to be trained in cybersecurity, but also for the veteran spouses on top of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Sorry.
yeah. No worries. So we're a cyber range hub here in Pinckney. There are other cyber range hubs that have different areas of focus. For example, there's the West Michigan Center of Arts and Technology, which is located in Grand Rapids, and one of their initiatives is increasing cybersecurity representation for people of color and for women. So they are directly focused on the most glaring issues as far as the workforce in cybersecurity and diversity. We also have an Upper Peninsula Cyber Institute located at Northern Michigan, and they're focused on expanding cybersecurity training to rural populations. We also have another cyber hub, Wayne State University, and they have taken the academy academic route to expand cybersecurity offerings there. And then we've just added the University of Michigan Flint. They have just become another cyber range hub, and they are focusing on the Flint Saginaw populations to increase cybersecurity training in that area also.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, there is extraordinary work clearly going on in this area. So unfortunately, we're just about out of time, but I always like to ask my guests, because we are obsessed of the connection between the arts and sciences. Is there any arts interest or practice that you have yourself when you're not immersed in cybersecurity education?
Yeah, well, I admit I'm more of an observer. I am a math, science, technology geek from the get-go. But I'm very fortunate. My wife is a very artistic person, although she doesn't take advantage of it as much as she should. I have two children, a 20-year-old who is very into exploring stories and fantasy and that type of thing. And then we also have a 15-year-old who is really into musicals and musical theater. And so I get to observe and enjoy it from that. And it's really expanded my world because I could sit there and be 100% focused on technology and my inner geek the whole time. And so I'm very, very fortunate to have them in my lives.
Awesome. Well, that is great. And musical theater, we've got the best program in the country at the University of Michigan.
Absolutely.
So, Rich Lamb, thank you for helping us gain knowledge through the lens of creativity here on Artful Science. Thanks so much.
Thank you.